On February 9th of 2004, 21-year-old UMass student Maura Murray drove from her dorm in Amherst, Massachusetts to the White Mountains of New Hampshire.
At approximately 7:27 p.m., Maura spun out her 1996 Saturn on a hairpin turn on Route 112 in North Haverhill. There has never been a credible sighting of Maura since.
Maura is 5 foot 7 inches tall. She weighs 120 pounds, and she has brown hair and hazel eyes.
If you have any information regarding Maura's disappearance, please submit it to us, the Murray family through their Facebook page, or the New Hampshire State Police Cold Case Unit.
This is Missing Maura Murray. Welcome back to the Missing Maura Murray podcast. I'm Tim, here today alone in the Crawlspace studios in Wormtown, but don't worry, Lance joins us in this interview. This interview is with Ladessa. Ladessa and Brandon Lawson were together at the time of his disappearance, and she's got a lot of great information to share. As some of you may know, we have covered Brandon's case on Crawlspace a little bit. We spoke with Jason Watts, we spoke with Brandon's brother Kyle Lawson, and we recently did a panel at CrimeCon with Jason Watts and some others, but we did talk about Brandon's disappearance. So that content is available on Crawlspace. So subscribe to Crawlspace in the show notes. But before we get to the interview with Ladessa, I just want to touch on some housekeeping notes. If you want to hear our entire archive of Missing Maura Murray, it is available at Stitcher Premium. Check it out, stitcherpremium.com. We also do creator commentaries for this show. So the first 80 episodes of Missing Maura Murray will eventually be recorded over with me and Lance talking about new updates in the case and really just kind of reminiscing and telling the behind-the-scenes story of this show and those episodes. And we definitely make fun of each other and ourselves, too. So people are really enjoying the creator's commentary. There are 60 episodes that are out there now, so check that out, stitcherpremium.com. Also, Crawlspace's entire archive is available there, so you get that, too. We are launching new shows at Crawlspace Media. You may have noticed a feed drop for a trailer called Incel. That is a new show coming from Crawlspace Media and our friend Naama Kates. And if you're a little confused on what the show Incel is, I spoke with Naama Kates at length last week in the Crawlspace studios, and that chat is airing on Patreon right now. So check that out at patreon.com/crawlspacepodcast. We have video over there with me talking to Naama Kates about the intentions of Incel. Here is a quick clip. Your project is it more about recruitment for this community, or is it more about like an attempt to understand this community?
It's definitely an attempt to understand it.
Okay.
It's about people too.
Okay, and you've mentioned some of the mass media articles and videos that have been produced on this kind of show it as a scary community. And why is that?
Because there have been crimes, like spree killings, going back to 2014 that were committed by self-identified incels. The first one being the Isla Vista shooting in 2014 that was on the college campus. And then followed each year, there's been like at least one that was associated with it.
Each year?
Each year, at least one. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Confirmed.
Wow, okay. So I guess another part of your show and this experience, this sort of social experiment too, maybe, is asking the question, does this group lead to violence?
Yeah.
How are you feeling about that at this point? Okay, so that is a little bit more on the show Incel. So subscribe to that now. There are links in the show notes. Now, I previously mentioned one of our other podcasts, Crawlspace. This week on Crawlspace, we spoke with Sarah Turney from the True Crime Podcast Festival in Chicago. And of course, Sarah Turney's sister, Alyssa, went missing in 2001 from Phoenix. Sarah believes her father is guilty in this case. We talk a little bit about him and a little bit about Sarah's new podcast, Voices for Justice. Just want to play a quick clip of that here now. You believe that your father, Michael, committed other crimes during those years?
Yeah. I mean, we know that he covered up an attempted murder. This is known. The police have stated this. In addition to, a lot of other women have come forward about sexual abuse against him, sexual assault, just really creepy things that he did. So I fully believe that he's doing a ton of criminal acts. I mean, I'm sure he has a gun right now. I can't imagine a world in which my father would live without a gun. And he's a felon, so he shouldn't have one.
What is next on the podcast? You did an episode where you spoke to your father.
Yeah.
And aired that. What is coming up next?
This case goes back so far, and I want to go into so much detail that people understand it from start to finish, as much in chronological order as I can. But, I preface in my first episode that it may not be in chronological order. And that's because what I find is the more that I publish, the more comfortable people feel coming forward, especially now that it's me doing the interviews.
Sarah's a total badass, and it is Alyssa Turney Week. So if you want to participate in Alyssa Turney Week, call 602-506-3411. That is the Maricopa County Attorney's Office, and you'd be calling on Alyssa's behalf. Be polite when you call, but just ask them, where is the prosecution in this case, and when are they moving forward with that? And if you want more from Sarah Turney, check out Crawlspace Media's other show, True Crime Twins, from Chloe Cantor and Melina Cantor, and they speak with Sarah at length, longer than I did on the Crawlspace episode, so you want to check that out. Links in the show notes for that as well. Okay, thanks for hanging with me with the housekeeping. Now on to Brandon's case. And before we get too deep into it, I want to mention and give a shout out to a new friend of the show. His name is Chase Winovich. He was the third-round pick of the New England Patriots in 2019, so he is joining the hometown team. So welcome, Chase, and thank you very much for listening and being interested in this show and the case of Brandon Lawson. He specifically messaged me about Brandon Lawson's case and how he can help. So this is a good start. I want to let the Lawson family know that Chase Winovich of the New England Patriots is here to help any way he can. So thank you very much, Chase, and we look forward to watching you on the field this year. Okay, so before we get to the interview with Ladessa, I just want to refresh everyone's memory on the case of Brandon Lawson, and maybe you haven't heard much on the case, so this might be a good refresher. So Brandon Lawson went missing August 9th, 2013 from Bront, Texas. He's white, he's male, he was 26 at the time of his disappearance. He's 5'9", weighs about 230 pounds, brown hair, blue eyes, stocky build, multiple tattoos, and was wearing a yellow shirt with camo shorts and white 2013 Air Max brand shoes. His car ran out of gas on Highway 277 near Bront, Texas, and that is where his car was left, and there has been no sign of Brandon since then. There was, however, a 911 call that he made that I want to play right now.
911 emergency.
Yes, I'm in the middle of the field. It's like we're just pushing guys over. Right here going towards Javelin on both sides. My truck ran out of gas. There's one car here. I checked it to the woods. Pretty flirty.
Okay, now run that by me.
We're not talking to him. I actually ran into him.
Ah, you ran into him. Okay.
That's the first guy.
You need an ambulance?
Yes, no, I need to call.
Okay. Is anybody hurt? Hello?
So that's the 911 call. You can see why this case is so mysterious just from people hearing that. It kind of grabs people's imagination. And so we spoke with Kyle a few months ago on Crawlspace, and I want to play a clip from that now. But if you want to hear the entire interview with Kyle, it is available on Crawlspace. Check it out. Links in the show notes. It's also available on YouTube, so check out the full interview with Kyle Lawson there. But here is a few minutes of Kyle when we spoke to him on Crawlspace. And keep in mind, he is reading here. He wrote a statement that he wanted to read at the beginning of our interview. We got a lot of questions on the YouTube page on Crawlspace saying, it sounds like he's reading. Well, just to let you know, that is not part of the mystery of this case. He was reading. He told us that. He wrote a statement just so he could stay on track. We questioned him afterwards. So Kyle is reading this statement to us on Crawlspace.
It all started like 2 days before my brother came up missing. I was on my way to work, and Brandon, my brother, called me, and he was wanting to know if I could get some dope for him because he's switched jobs, and he had already taken his drug test, so he wanted to get high. He had not smoked in at least 6 months, And I told him, no, you don't need to do that, bro. You've been clean for a long time. He told me, I know, bro. I'm just going to do a little bit. I told him, okay. They went and got high. Then I didn't hear from him until I was on my way home. I called him and asked where he was, if he was still going to come by when I got home, and he said yes. After I got home, I never heard from him. So the next morning, I tried calling him and can't get a hold of him. So I called some friends back home in Fort Worth and to see if he had come there, and I found him. He was at one of our friends' house. He got on the phone and spoke to me, and he said he was going to be heading home soon. And I was about to eat dinner when my mother called me and asked if I would please go over to their house and calm my brother down because he was flipping out. When I arrived at their house, my brother Brandon was already gone. So I asked Ladessa what was going on, and she said he was tripping and flipping out. On my way there, my brother calls me, says that Ladessa had some Mexicans from the neighborhood chasing him out of town. He told me that the state trooper had pulled one of them over, but there were still two chasing him. He hung up on me, then calls me back and tells me that he is about to run out of gas. He needed me to bring him some gas, so I told him, okay, that I had to go back by his house to pick up a gas can and come straight to him. So I went to his house, I got the gas can, and I headed that way. Well, Brandon kept calling me, and he would say a few words and hang up. The first time he asked where I was and to hurry up, I told him that I was on the way as fast as I could. Then he calls back, and Audrey answered, and he said, where are y'all? I'm bleeding, Audrey. As in, Audrey, hurry up and get here. And he hung up. Then he calls me again and says, where are you at? I said, I'm pulling up right now. He hung up again. So when I pulled up to his truck, I make a U-turn and park on the opposite side of the road. I get out, walk over to his truck, and he calls. I ask him, where are you, bro? He said, I'm right here where I said. At that time, there was a vehicle approaching, and he says to me, one time, run. I told him, I'm not going to run. I've done nothing wrong. And he said, where is your pride, motherfucker? And hung up on me. At this time, the officer was walking up from behind the truck, and he says, is this your truck? I told him, no, it's my brother's truck that he had ran out of gas, and he was walking down the road. He keeps losing signals, so I asked if he minded me driving down the street to look for him, and he said, yeah, but he's not back that way because I just come from that way. So I said, okay. I had not known that my brother had made a 911 call in between the time he was calling me. On my way there, it makes no sense to me why he would call 911 saying he needed the cops, and then right after he tells me to run from the police.
Okay, so that was Kyle Lawson. Again, check that out on Crawlspace. And here is our full interview with Ladessa. Please subscribe to all shows on Crawlspace Media. There are plenty of links in the show notes for you to click on. Thank you very much. How are you, Ladessa?
I'm good. Thank you.
Just wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your day to speak with us. And we know that you have a busy life there. So we really appreciate you coming on and sharing with you some of the background of Brandon and your history with him, and then maybe go over a little bit of his disappearance.
How did you meet Brandon?
In high school, we were like 15 and 16, and I was with my friends, and he came up to me and was like trying to talk to me, and I was like, why are you trying to talk to me? And he's like, you don't know who I am? I was like, no, am I supposed to? You know, just trying to flirt with me. And then later on, he saw me again, and he asked me for my phone number, and I was like, I don't know if I want to give you my phone number. I was like, you probably asked all the girls, and, you know, it was just a funny thing, but I finally gave him my number.
Well, that's
and
cute,
then,
yeah.
Did you know about him in school before he had asked you for the for your
not
phone number?
really.
Okay.
I kind of like I had friends, but I had like my circle of friends, so I kind of like, I talked to everybody, but I kind of like set to myself. No, not really. I kind of knew about him, but not really. Like I didn't go to Joshua my whole life. I didn't start going to Joshua until I was a freshman, so I was still, this was my sophomore year, so I didn't really know everybody.
And this was a small town?
Yeah, it's very small.
Okay.
Very small. It's like I don't know. I always meet, we say you got like, I don't know, maybe 10 stoplights.
Right, right. So
yeah, but it's mostly country out there, so it's like country.
Yeah. So you eventually gave him your number.
Yes, I did.
He was
yes,
charming.
I did, and then
He was charming enough to
coerce that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, okay, I guess. And he called me and talked to me, and then I think we talked like for a month, and he was like, will you be my girlfriend? And I was like, yeah, I guess. I was the type that I would just like, didn't really want a boyfriend because I was so young, and I was, I didn't want to be one of those girls tied up and stuff. But Brandon, he's a smooth talker. And then after that, went all, we fell in love, and then had kids, and we're together for a long time. So started from that.
So this started when you said you were 15 or 16?
I was 15. He was 16. We're like, his birthday is November 18th and mine's January 6th. So we're like not that far apart. Like, we're like a year and a couple of months apart. So. And
this relationship went all through high school and then continued past high school, and you ended up raising a family together?
Yeah, we were on and off sometimes. Like, we were just like growing up together. We were young kids. And so like, just immature, like break up here and there. And then it wasn't like very long ever. It was just, we were getting to know the world and each other at the same time. So we were just young, and, we were just, all those hormones and learning how to deal with the world and all that.
Yeah, learning how to grow up, and
probably
a lot of stress with the family too.
Yeah, I'd passed from my like parents and stuff like that, and so like I had a hard time with that. So he just always supported me. Him and his family always supported me, so it was really good.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, his parents are still they're my in-laws. They like my mom and dad, so his whole family, they're just very supportive. So it's good, and it takes a village to raise kids, and all of them are very, good about being here for all the kids, because there's 4 of them.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Well, that's great to hear that, they're still in your lives.
And so you've had 4 children with Brandon. That's correct?
Well, I have 3 physical that I had, and then I have a stepdaughter that was with him and with Mackenzie's mom, and they live in Joshua still. So they still live in Joshua, but she's a really good mom, and she's really good to Mackenzie. I couldn't ask for a better mom to my stepdaughter. So, but I call her mine because, I've been there since she was like, I don't know, like I think 8-9 months old. So.
Wow. Okay.
And she's about to be 16 in July. So it's like, I consider her one of my kids.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's good to hear that you still communicate and you still consider Brandon's parents to be, part of your family. And I'm sure that having their support during Brandon's disappearance is super important to you and helps you, get by in a day-to-day basis. Is that a pretty accurate assessment?
Oh yeah, definitely. They're at every birthday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, everything. So, no, it's really, really good.
Do you see Kyle a lot?
Yeah, I see my brother-in-law. Yeah, I saw him Saturday. We had a birthday party.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I love Kyle. Me and Kyle. Kyle's like we're like brother and sister. Like we fight. Like he'll tell me how it is, I'll tell him how it is. That's just who we are, But I love my brother-in-law. He would do anything for anybody that needed help. That's just who he is.
Yeah, when we spoke to him a couple of months ago on the show, we all ended that conversation and when we hung up, we just kind of looked at each other, and it wasn't so much the things he said, it was just how he said them, and he just feels like a guy where if he thinks that you're a good person, I feel like he's someone who will go to no ends to help you do something or just have your back on anything.
Yeah, Kyle's very loyal.
Yeah.
He's very loyal to his brother. That's who Kyle is. Like, Brandon would rat Kyle out before Kyle would ever rat Brandon out. Like, Kyle is loyal, you know. He ain't gonna. He's very loyal for his brother, but also Kyle. I love Kyle. He just, you know.
Yeah.
We fight sometimes, like brother and sister, and it's funny, but we always, you know, there for each other. So that's all that matters in the end.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, he seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, he is. He is.
What did you think of what he was saying on our show when we talked to him?
It was good. I just I think, like, you know, like when this happened, I was like 25, I was young, and there was so much things going on. I didn't really get to hear, like, you know, some of what Kyle said when we were, you know, when this first happened. Like, I didn't. I was still kind of like, you know, I was shocked. It's kind of like, you know, I don't know if you ever got in a car wreck and you don't feel no pain until later on. You know, I just didn't know what, you know, you just, in that moment, you don't know what to do, really. And, you know, it was good. It was just good hearing stuff. And, you know, for me, it's like, sometimes I feel like the world just sits still when Brandon went missing, because I had the kids, and I was just so, the first 2 years were certainly hard on me. A lot of people don't realize it's still hard on me, but, you know, the first 2 years, I was really depressed, and I still worked and all that and took care of the kids. It was hard. I didn't know what to do. I was like 25, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, any 25-year-old, you're like, okay. And I wish I know what I know now back then, because the police, like, they kind of helped, but they didn't really, because they didn't really know what to do. I don't think they, like, honestly, this is me. I don't think police stations and stuff like that, they know what to do with missing persons. I think we need to start doing more classes about that, but I don't think they know what to do.
I think that's a great point. We talk about that internally a lot, how there's like no protocol for a car being found on the road with the driver not in it. There should be some actual protocol, and there's just not.
Yeah, and the problem with that, on top of it, is, you know, on top of the fact that there's no driver there, I feel like typically, and this is just in our experience, typically the arriving officer will assume that the driver was in some sort of personal turmoil, maybe drinking while driving or whatever, and just left the vehicle and was going to come back later, you know, in order to sober up or clear their head for whatever reason. They never go to that point where they're thinking, okay, this person might be in serious physical trouble, and this might turn into something bigger. And I think that you're right. There has to be a class there, because there needs to be a balance between, am I going to be an alarmist as a police officer and call out all the stops for an abandoned vehicle, or do I kind of pragmatically approach this? But the problem with the pragmatic approach is that 2 days later, there's still no driver, there's still no person, and you're basically approaching it as a cold case at that point.
Yeah, I mean, they won't say cold case, even though I'm really upset about that, because I thought after Brandon went missing like 3 years that it would be a cold case, like missing person.
Yeah.
But basically it's up to law enforcement, so they make all the calls. So there's no rule about cold case, missing persons, and I thought, you know, maybe it would like get new eyes if it was a cold case. So, which there's not. It's frustrating, you know, even though Brandon's been missing, 9 will be 6 years. So I don't understand that, how it's not a cold case, because it's been over 3 years. But I mean, I don't make the calls.
Well, I think that would kind of mean that there's still tips that are coming in. I think that's really why they classify it as a cold case, if there's no tips whatsoever. And Brandon's case seems to grab people's imaginations, unlike a lot of missing persons cases. So at least, that's going for it.
So you're saying that perhaps they're treating it as an active case?
Well, I'm not saying they're investigating. I have no
Yeah.
idea, but I'm just saying if they haven't classified it as cold, it's probably because they're getting calls still.
I don't really get, they'll contact me every once in a while if they, ask me about something, but it's nothing. I think it's mostly just tips from, people that are psychics.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're not incredible, to know something, but, I mean, me, I'm the type of person, I want facts, evidence right in front of there, so I don't know what goes in and what goes out. When people say things to me, I'm like, just call the number, because there's really nothing. I can tell them, but until somebody says it out of their mouth, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of it's hard because you're there's many times I wanted to do stuff, but I can't because it's up to law enforcement what they call and what they believe is. So, I mean, I always let them know, if somebody doesn't want to contact them, I always let them know what, the tip was or something, but I think they just want more physical, facts in front of them. That's what I think they're waiting on.
Have they ever communicated to you whether or not they even consider this to be a crime to investigate, or do they think that he left on his own accord and he's still alive living somewhere else? The sheriff, Wayne McCutcheon, he just says that, something's not right and something doesn't lead up. That's all he says. And then the ranger thinks he is somewhere out there on a property, on a ranch, and we just can't find him. And, basically that I don't think they think it was a crime. I can't speak for them. I can only speak for myself, but that's what I get out of it. I mean, I really don't know, I just, the words that are told to me. So I can't say that they think this and that. So it's up to them. When this first happened, I was just really upset because everybody kept on saying he ran off with another woman, law enforcement. It was just making me really upset. And it wasn't even that. I wish Brandon did at this time, because we would have found him. My kids would have had a father. But I'm something's not right. He didn't go back to his truck. He had the keys and all that, and he had his phone. And so it just didn't lead up to that. I don't know. I just felt like something was wrong that night because Brandon, he would have contacted somebody, and even the next day. And I would just, basically me, I didn't really know about the 911 call till that Tuesday, until we did the missing persons report. They went, I couldn't do the missing persons report. It took them forever to even let me. And they were battling what county it should have been, because we lived in St. Angelo, and that's the last place I saw him, Mm-hmm.
So we didn't know if we had to do it Tom Green County or if we had to do it Coke County. And, Tom Green County, they told me I had to do it in Coke County. That's where the last place his truck was. So I ended up finally doing that. And then we went over his phone records that they pulled, and he saw that he called 911. And I didn't even know he called 911 till that Tuesday. All I really knew is he was telling Kyle stuff, and he just said he was bleeding, and that's what scared me because I really didn't know about 911 until later on. But I was just thinking about rattlesnakes out there. That's what my mind, because land like that. And Brandon, he worked in the oil field. They would find rattlesnakes and copperheads and all kinds of snakes. And I was just scared maybe he got bit by a snake. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
If he was bleeding. I really didn't know what to think until I saw more of the calls and stuff.
Can you take us through what you remember from that night?
Yeah, or even not to interrupt, but can you take us to maybe a couple of days before that, leading up to it, because he had just gotten a new job and.
Let's see. I worked at a daycare for a little bit, and our son, he started daycare, and he was really sick. And so he got an upper respiratory infection, an ear infection, and he just was sick. So we were mostly taking care of him. And Brandon, had an interview. I think it was on that Wednesday. He had an interview, and he got the job because he wanted a job that he made more money but not worked as much hours sometimes. He could spend with the family. he got the job and he went and took a P test and, got all his stuff. And so he quit his other job and, we were just waiting for Monday for him to start it, but it was just being a regular family. Nothing really happened until that Wednesday. Yeah, we got in an argument and he left, and then I'm pretty sure he went to college for a little bit, and then he came back on, it was that Thursday, and we were just fighting because I guess, I haven't slept. He, because of the kid, my son Nolan being not feeling good and stuff like that, and we're just fighting. And I don't know, after that night I told him to leave. I mean, everybody knows there's a possibility that he was on something. I don't know if he was or not. Like, I have no proof, but I think, that was mostly what our fight was about.
Oh, really?
Whether or not he was on some drug?
Yeah, that he was high off drugs. Yeah, that I suspected it.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in stuff like I don't believe in doing drugs with kids. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I'm really strict about that.
Yeah.
I grew up, a drug life situation, and that's one thing that just like sets me off, and I was just upset, and I told him to leave, and I regret telling him to leave, but I didn't want the kids to see him like that because he hasn't done anything in a very long time. Like, Brandon wasn't like your usual, like person that did drugs all the time. He just would do it like maybe once a year or sometimes more, like, a couple months at a time. But it wasn't like he like stole from his family or anything like that. It
Yeah.
was,
So he wasn't like an addict. He just like got carried away once in a while.
He was an addict. He was an addict. It just he didn't like do it all the time like most addicts do. He fought it a lot. He fought his addiction a lot. It was I don't know, it's just hard to explain. Like, when the wrong people get around you, you just use, and Brandon was really trying to get his life straight, so I didn't understand it. I was just upset. And I wish I wouldn't have been like so hard to be like, you need to leave and stuff like that.
Did he deny that he was using drugs at that time?
Yes, he did, but I'm so like one way when it comes to that stuff. That's like anything else is pretty fine, but when it comes to drugs, I just like, I get one way and I'm like, that's who I am. It's because I get fear of like living through my parents' footsteps.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, my mom's, not my dad's, but no, I expected it, and that's what we were mostly fighting about.
Was there
Anything public till now? My biggest thing was my daughters, and my boys are still young, but I wanted to talk to them and tell them stuff before like everybody else, sits here and says this and that. Like, I'd have that conversation with them because everything that's on the internet they read. People don't think that when you say hateful stuff about their dad, they read it.
Yeah.
And that's my main concern. And then them being okay, like their dad wasn't a bad person at all. Like he made some bad choices sometimes. Don't mean it should have cost him like the rest of his life, and people want to say this and that, but everybody makes mistakes in life.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. And that doesn't mean that you should be condemning them privately or publicly, especially publicly, especially when they know that you have young children, but old enough to read these things online. It's a really irresponsible thing to do. And I feel really bad that you're put through that. So hopefully some of this can be put to rest.
I was worried about them.
Yeah.
I was just worried about them at first because I don't want them thinking that, they're so young, and I don't want them thinking that their dad didn't love them. It was nothing like that. It was just that Brandon was an addict and he had to slip up, and and I'm, I can't prove that he was on it, but I'm pretty sure he was. He did. I regret that to this day. I've seen people like insult me on Facebook and all that online about this, but I really don't. Until you live in the moment, you don't know. I did not know none of this was going to happen. my son, he broke my charger because my little daredevil was just that, like that when he was 18 months,
Sure.
years old. And so all we had was a car charger that would charge on, our vehicle all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And mine was the type that you didn't have to turn on the keys to charge the phone. So I went outside and I charged my phone, and I'm like, well, I already talked to my, Kyle will call me, tell me that, well, no, I did talk to him, and he just said, ran out of gas. Kyle, and I talked to him about it, and I just said, Kyle, I'm going to put the gas tank, because we have one of those. He didn't have one on the porch, and you just take care of it. At the time, we were fighting, and I was like, I'll just let, Kyle can deal with him better than I can sometimes when he's like that. And it's just me. I just was so focused on the kids, my sick kid at the time. Because I didn't go to the ER actually that night. I remember going to the ER, getting him checked out because he had, he also had a virus, ear infection, and then he couldn't stop throwing up, and because he had all that drainage and stuff. And so I just didn't sleep, and I was trying to get him, and he finally fell asleep. And so I just plugged it in, told Kyle to take care of it. I did talk to Brandon, I think, one time that night. Well, after he left, I did talk to him, and he was just kind of yelling still. And I was like, let Kyle deal with it. Well, I told him I was leaving it out there, and then I just plugged my phone into the van, and then I went inside, and I fell asleep for a little bit. And then I woke up. I just had this anxiety feeling, and I woke up because Brandon, I was used to sleeping by Brandon, and him always being there. So I went to the van and got my phone, and I had so many missed calls. I had 3 missed calls from Brandon. I had so many from Kyle and so many from my mother-in-law. And I didn't know what was going on. I tried calling Brandon a few times, and his phone was just ringing. And it, I'm used to Brandon being off location, on location, when he's in the oil field. So when it rings like that, it means he has no service, basically. When it takes forever to get to the answering machine.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because I was just used to him, sometimes his phone would just ring, and then it would go to that, and that's what it was doing. So I was like, that's weird.
So that means that's not being off. That's not turned off.
Just means no one's picked up.
Yeah,
of
it
service.
was not dead.
Okay.
At all. Because if it was dead, it would go straight to the voicemail.
Right. Okay.
That's what it does. It rings and then it goes to the voicemail. And I was like, okay. So then I called my mother-in-law, and she's calling me in the middle of the night. I was like, what's going on? So I call her. She's tell me that Kyle couldn't find Brandon, and Brandon was talking to him, and there was a cop and by his truck, and they could not find Brandon. Nowhere, and Kyle was looking for him. Well, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to call Kyle. And I called Kyle, and Kyle was telling me the same thing, that he didn't know what to do. He's over there trying to find him and all this. And I was like, well, most people want to know, Kyle's part. Kyle knows Kyle's part. He explained that. I don't know Kyle's part when he was out there. I just know my part, And so I was like, I was having anxiety, and I was like, well, I guess I didn't even know where he was at. And they finally told me Bronx. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to look up the police station to see what's going on. I called up there. I didn't tell them who I was. I didn't identify myself. I was just like, the truck, ran out of gas. So there was a cop by there. Do you know what happened? And they're like, no, I think it's just, it's just parked on the side of the road, and it's over compliance. The way his truck was parked, it wasn't straight. It was the front was there, and then the back was hanging out. And they're like, it's a Hauser. They're going to have to tow the truck. Me, I'm like, I don't have extra keys, or, I would have went there and just moved the truck so we didn't have to tow it. Because I didn't know what was happening at first. Brandon had the only keys. And it was a Ford 2001, no, 2000, I don't know, 2000, no, it was 19, something 19, before 2000. And those type of trucks, you have to afford, they don't make it over that. You have to get a locksmith to make a key. And I was just gonna let him tow it because I didn't know until seriously of Brandon at the time of what was happening. So I was like, he has the keys, so I didn't know what to do. So they didn't tow the truck till I think like 8 or 9 in the morning when it happened that night. But I went out there that morning and I was like, maybe Brandon like got hurt out there or, bit by something. So I just called his name out and we went all up and down that highway. I had the kids and I was just calling his name and nothing was happening. And then I called some of his buddies from work and we went out there and they helped me. And like, we were trying to call Brandon's name. We didn't know like if he was hurt or why, because he has not contacted anybody. Well, I went home and then I like knocked on my neighbors' houses to see if they seen Brandon or anything, in case he came home. I was like, well, if he knows where home is, and I knocked on people's doors and all that, and nobody saw them. And I was like, I don't know what to do. And then driving back and forth is like 30 minutes there, 30 minutes that. I had, my baby was like 8 months and then 18 months. And then I had Destiny and I was like, well, I don't know what to do. So I was like, we're just going to stay in a hotel down there. I'm just going to, look for him because I didn't know. I was thinking that maybe he was hurt out there. That's why he hasn't contacted none of us.
Do you remember what time it was when you went out to the van and got your phone and saw the messages? And
I think that was 4 or 5 in the morning. It was really early.
Okay. And that's the first call you made was to Brandon where it just rang?
Yeah. I called him like 3 times.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, I told my mother-in-law and Kyle, I called before I called the police station, like, see what was going on. So I called and like, it just kept ringing and ringing I think his phone went dead around like 8 or 9 in the morning. But I mean, I think it was that time. I could be off, but I remember his phone finally did go dead.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to add, I think what you did in putting the gas can out and talking to Kyle, like you did the most responsible thing you could do in that situation. I just hope you know that. And
yeah, but now that what it led up to, you just always think you can do more.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have done more, and maybe I feel like it's my responsibility to find Brandon for my children and myself too, but mostly his like grandparents and his parents, so I feel like it's my responsibility. So I made an oath to my kids that I would never stop looking. So
yeah,
it's hard.
That night when he left, did he tell you anywhere specific that he was going to go?
No, he was mad at me because I just like was like one way and he was mad at me. So I just don't like kids being around, stuff like that. And just like really, and it's not that, it's just who I am as a person, I'm still like that today. Like, that's just who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, I did drugs when I was, me and Brandon did drugs when I was younger. I was like 16 and I stopped like 3 months before I got pregnant with my daughter. So I did them for a year and like a few months, but like, yeah, I did drugs, like, but I got clean and it wasn't even like, I'm a type of person, I don't have a ditching personality. So like I could smoke a whole pack of cigarettes and not pick it up. That's who I am.
Yeah.
And, which I'm lucky because, my mom, she, is an addict, but, I'm lucky for that. So, this is who I was and, I'm not perfect. I have my past, like it was, I'm not a perfect mom and stuff like that all the time, but when I was younger, but I'm just one way. That's just who I am.
Do you have an opinion as to where he was going when he left?
I think he was going to my father-in-law's, probably to see his daughter. That's where I think he was going. I could be wrong, but that's where Brandon would go, to his parents.
Yeah. And what about Walmart? Did Brandon stop at Walmart that night?
Well, it's like he said, she said type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like my neighbor across the street talked to Brandon a few times that night.
Oh.
After he left and texts and stuff like that. And they said that, I think they saw his truck, but, they didn't see nothing. I mean, it's just kind of like he said, she said stuff. So I really don't know. I'm not going to sit there and say, I'm the type of person that I have to have facts in front of me. So I really don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
but
There's no
that's what
receipt or
it-
anything that you know of.
yeah, nothing like that. So, which I don't understand if he was at Walmart why he went and got gas because, like as soon as you leave St. Angelo and you go to Bront, there's like no gas station until you go to that Stripe. So I really don't know. Maybe Brandon was just upset. So I really don't know because he had the money. He had money in his banking account. So I don't understand why he didn't. But I mean, I don't know why.
You just said that he spoke to your neighbor across the street that night. Did he speak to your neighbor after he left his home?
There was like, well, so there's numbers on like the car lot.
Yep.
And I can't know like if somebody received them or it was, that like you can't know that. You can't know certain things on there, but I do know that he did. And my family had to look up this, mostly my cousin Kara, had to look up these phone numbers to see who the people were. And one was Matthew, and he lives across the street from us. And I didn't really know Matthew that good. It's kind of like, like hi neighbor type of deal. And Brandon and him would text and talk every once in a while, but I think he's in the oil field too. And so I went to, after all this was said and done, I said, Matthew, you're like the last one to talk to Brandon and stuff like that. I said, will you go to the police station with me? He said, yeah. And he went to the police station with me the next morning, and we went in there. I was like, this is the number you're looking for to Coke County. And Wayne McCutcheon said, we don't need to talk to him. We don't need to talk to him. We don't need that. And I'm like, well, this is the number, I just feel like it just wasn't like investigated, like every number in that call, because it's important. Every single number in that was important to like talk to.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, but he went to the police station with me and stuff, but I feel like they just didn't like really. I mean, it's important his last words to people,
Yeah.
and talking to people.
I just want to.
I was kind of upset because I was like, what is going on?
I just want to be clear that I heard that correctly. He spoke to this neighbor on the phone after he left your place, before he went missing, and you and that neighbor went to the police, and the police said, we don't need to talk to him.
Yep, that's exactly what happened.
Wow, that's not.
That's some bad policing right there.
That is bad investigative.
I'm just a humble podcaster, but that doesn't sound like the right way to go about it.
That's bullshit.
Yeah, I just because I was like those words, and like there was some text, I forgot what it was. It was like, all I have is so much money, if you need a win. And what Matthew told me, this is like what he told me was like he thought me and Brandon were having problems over money, and I was like, no. Brandon was really good at like saving money, and we were good in that area because he made pretty good, decent money in the oil field. It was booming right then and there, and I was like, and then they wanted to use it as like a drug dealer or something, like saying that, and I'm like, I doubt that. They just like come up with these stories, and I'm like, he worked like so many hours a week. He didn't have time to do none of that stuff. It was making this much money. Why would he need to, do that? Usually people that sell drugs, it's because they need to make money,
Yeah.
I was so like unbelievable how much they just put out there that, like basically Brandon was like this drug dealer that had this, oh yeah. And he had a warrant. We did not know he had a warrant. Brandon went to prison, to finish out his probation when this warrant was already released. I did not know why they didn't like arraign him about the warrant. We did not know nothing about it until later on when he tried to enroll, get the tags and all that stuff done on the truck. And they told him about the warrant. Also, he paid child support, like, not all the time, the time he was in jail and stuff, but when he was in the oil field, he did pay child support faithfully. They knew his address, his social security, and stuff. So, like, it wasn't like Brandon was hiding from the police. Like, we were prepared if they came and picked him up. We didn't really even know, like, basically you can't even know what, like, really a warrant's after, like, his charge until we got a lawyer and do, like, discover of evidence of what the warrant was about. I still don't know what this warrant's about to this day. So I have no idea. It just, I don't even know what it is. I have no idea.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't have been anything too serious because he wasn't arrested on the spot.
Yeah, and I mean, he got stopped by cops a few times for, like, speeding, and nothing happened. So I don't know why so many people think he was, like, hiding from this warrant. We did not really know about it. We just knew about it, like, a few months before, and we were just saving money for a lawyer to figure out what we needed to do. But I was really upset because Brandon finally got his life clean, was doing good and stuff like that. And then he had this warrant, and I'm like, it's Johnson County. That's where we're from. Joshua's in Johnson County, so it's that type of deal.
What about what Kyle said about Mexicans? I believe it was from Brandon to Kyle. He said the Mexicans were chasing him. Was that what does that mean to you?
I really don't. I don't know. Brandon, when he was under the influence, he would say things, and I would just, like, kind of ignore it sometimes. I'm like, I'm not dealing with this, And he just would say things like that. Like, I had Mexicans after him. I'm like, I don't even know anybody out here, So I really did not know what he was talking about, but I knew Brandon. That's how I thought Brandon used, because he was accusing me of things. And that's usually, Brandon doesn't ever accuse me of anything like that. What, he's clean, sober, nothing like that. Like, he's lovable and stuff like that. He knows I'm loyal, but when he was under the influence, he would act different. And I was like trying to get somebody after him, and I'm like, I don't understand why he would think that.
Was there a big drug issue? Was there a big drug problem in the town? And was there any, like, God, I feel idiotic saying it. Was there any, like, drug cartel that operated around that town, around that area?
I didn't know anything out there because I don't do drugs, but, like, he said, she said after Brandon went missing was like, there was people, like, getting busted, but I think they had something like Mexican cartel, but something different. I really don't know. I don't associate with stuff like that, so I have no idea, but I know people got busted, and there was a few killings after Brandon went missing. It was, like, almost the same week. It was crazy.
Oh, that's interesting.
In that area?
Yeah, in St. Angelo, not in Bront.
Okay.
In St. Angelo, and I was like, what is going on? But, when the oil field moves more that way, more stuff comes that way, prostitutes, drugs, slowly, stuff like that, because, they know that the money's there. Just like, that's just how it is. And when the oil field starts booming, I don't know why, but that's just how they work, because I think people think they can make money off of it.
Right. Now, what about searches? What kind of organized searches were done in the immediate aftermath?
I did a lot. I searched for Brandon, like, basically, I just always call it Friday morning, even though it was like, Brandon went missing like Thursday night, but it was more Friday morning, I think. I searched for, I knocked on people's, all these neighbors' doors, front, all kinds of stuff. There was a man, he was really nice. He talked to me and stuff like that. But, like, I did all kinds of stuff. But finally, I'm like, look, I talked to my family, Brandon's family, and my father-in-law had to work. Like, it was mandatory on that Saturday. And finally, everybody came to bed Saturday night, and they were going to do a search. And finally that night, I put it on Facebook because I was like, I really don't know what to do. I was like, maybe somebody saw him. And I did not know it was going to blow up so much, and people were just going to be, like, so hateful. And some people wasn't. Some people wanted to help, and some people were hateful. And, his Renegade came out, that was a company that he did work for, and had ATVs and stuff like that. And the property owners were being really nice, like, letting us search, and we asked, some of them. But I really didn't know, like, I know about private property, but not as much. But they were all being, like, real friendly and stuff. And then we searched that day, and we found some falcons, which is like bird of prey, like the birds, that go, when they see things that are not alive, they circle around it.
Sure.
Yeah, like a vulture.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like worried about those, and we saw some, so we like went all the way down there, and I mean, it is so hard out there to jump those fences, barbed wire, all kinds of stuff. And it was like I think it was like a dead skunk, or no, a dead raccoon. That's what it was, a dead raccoon. And there was no Brandon, but I mean, even though you could see it from the thing, it was like a mile and a half. Ugh. And I ended up getting staph that day too.
Getting like a staph infection?
Yeah, I had staph infection.
Oh, wow.
And well, like I didn't know until later on, but finally his family, they left that Sunday, and I was like, this is just I did not know what land I was dealing with. So I'm like, I'm just gonna see if I can pay for a helicopter search, a crop duster, a plane search. And luckily, I had some money left over from my income tax, and then I flew, and there was so much land. You couldn't really see that much, and it was really hot. It was like 6 or 7 o'clock, and it was like so hot, and it was like this little bitty plane, and it was like going back and forth, and we went, and I didn't really see anything. I was really looking for like, falcons, mostly looking for the birds and stuff. So that's what people kept on telling me, that there would be like hundreds if he was out there. Something was wrong,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And that's what I was in the state of Texas. It was like August, and it's like hot. So that's what I was mostly worried about, was that, and seeing if Brandon was hurt out there or something. Because if you like go missing and no water, you have like 48 hours when it's really, really hot. Probably longer, but I was just worried. And it was so much land. I was just so, after I saw all the land, I was like, I have no idea where we even start to look. It's really hard out there to look for anything. It's like a needle in a haystack.
You said that when you were out there, you saw the birds circling, and from where you were standing, it was about a mile away. So you went out there on ATVs, and then
No, we did this foot. We couldn't do the ATVs because of the fences.
Okay.
So we had to do this foot because, like, I mean, you can. My father-in-law, like, he was an ATV mostly sometimes, but no, it's just we did foot, and and we had our cousins come down there. Like, we had a good probably 20 people, and like it was just so much. Like, I mean, it was like a mile and a half probably, I want to say, because we thought it was not that far, and it was like, it's exhausting,
Yeah.
Yeah, because you got to jump the fences. There's cactuses everywhere. There's brush, everything.
Yeah. So how long before you encountered these fences, and were they barbed wire? I guess what I'm getting at is, if Brandon ran into the woods, how far would it have been for him to encounter one of those fences at night?
It's just like right there, and it just I mean, where Brand's trunk went missing, it's not even like 3 yards, not 2.5 yards to the fence.
Oh.
Like, it just fenced up everywhere there. So basically, you have to like jump fences to get places mostly, unless they open the gate. Well, some of them, but this land is mostly like 85% of these people are mostly retired. So like the other 15%, they make money off like deer leases because they're known for like their deer season and stuff. And like they don't have a lot of jobs out there. Like, you have to drive like 30 minutes, probably like 35 minutes to St. Angelo to have a job out there. And
yeah.
So a lot of these are like, older community that, that basically like ranchers.
Now, you also said that you encountered a lot of good people out there when you were taking part in these searches.
Everybody was like really nice, and everybody was really nice. And then the sheriff, Brandon Mill was the sheriff deputy. He was there that night. He was the one that was mostly encountered all that. The sheriff was out of town till that Tuesday, and the ranger, I guess, was out of town too. Which they said usually they call him the ranger, because he has more. He can provide more help because they don't really have like a lot of funds out there, and they only had at the time like 5 cops. So you got a sheriff deputy, You got 3 other deputies. And that's basically what they have. And then they also have, at night, Brandon's on one call, which people have listened to it, is I'm still upset about that 911 call so much because I feel like the operator, she didn't say, what's your name, your location. And if we would have known like some kind of location, I believe we could have started there to look for Brandon. And she didn't say none of that. And basically it went out of a nursing home. And so like, I think it was just a CNA. I don't know who answered, who was on there on that part. I have no idea. But I think it was like just a CNA, that they wasn't even trained to do 911 calls. I really don't know. But I know that they were out of compliance. That's why all the 911 calls now go to San Angelo from Bront. So Bront can't answer 911 calls. I mean, they can do like the Coke County Sheriff's Office, but not 911 calls.
Yeah, so they're not properly trained, is what you're saying.
No, not at all. They didn't even ask his name and location. That's the first thing they ask you. What's your emergency?
Yeah. Right. That's what that was really frustrating when we listened to it, and when we were talking to Jason Watts and to Kyle, that there's never anything specifically saying this is what's wrong. It's all very abstract and left to interpretation.
Very quick too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was upset because like I didn't even know he called 911 4 days later. Would have been different. And then some were like, oh, he just mumbled stuff. I'm like, law enforcement said that he just mumbled stuff, and I'm like, oh, I don't think it was mumbling on there.
Well, that's frustrating because he called 911 for a reason.
Yeah, I wouldn't call that mumbling.
Yeah, you don't.
No, I think they just didn't. I really don't. I just don't think they have the resources that most people do. I don't want to like talk bad about law enforcement because I feel like they dropped the ball. I feel like there's some things that I could have done, and I don't want to like go against law enforcement, but so many who are like, they did this and that, like me going after them or like being mad at them is not going to help find Brandon right now. Like all I want is help from them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And all I want is like them now to be like, okay, well, this happened. Let's do it better and let's work together. That's all I ask, like for them to like get more searches in, and because they're the ones at the end of the day that have to approve everything for for Brandon to be found, so I don't want to sit there and say that they were like terrible. I just don't think they have the resources. That's what I really believe. They do not have the resources. Mr. Hanna, the Texas Ranger, he's really smart. He knows he's been doing this a long time and he knows what's out there. I just want them to just like work with me more,
Well, that's fair.
Yeah.
And I think they were probably just in over their heads, as you're saying, early on. Yeah, so, and that's a great point. Like, no reason to throw stones at them now. You have to work together.
Yeah, and I just want, like, the sheriff wasn't even there until 4 days later. Like, he has nothing to do with it. I see people saying that. Like, Brandon Neal was the sheriff deputy. He was there that night. Wayne McCutcheon, he has nothing to do with it. Like, he was out of town.
Right.
So, I mean, I see people put that, and I think they get confused who is who. Like Wayne McCutcheon is the sheriff of Coke County, and then Brandon Neal is the sheriff deputy that night.
Yeah,
and I know Brandon Neal does not like me. I know he doesn't. I know he doesn't like my family. I mean, I've never seen. What upsets me the most is like how you cannot help a family that's just missing their loved ones. Like I just don't understand it till this day. But that's for another point in time to deal with after we found Brandon, because. I also believe that it's police officers, they need training, and sheriff's departments need training on how they talk to families that have a missing person.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
It's ridiculous. Like I'm not the only person that's had trouble like this, but it's ridiculous. Like you do not say certain things to people, and like even just being a human being, you don't say hateful things like that when somebody needs help. I believe you make a pledge like to serve people and to protect people and stuff like that. And like when you talk to people like that, you're not doing your job, but that's another point in time. Like they just need better training. Like, what I got so upset is the DPS, when we finally did the missing report, they put that Brandon was involuntary. It means he did not go missing on his own. That's exactly what it says, that he was involuntary. And then they want to say that he just went out with another woman. You do not say that to somebody.
Was there any indication that he was even seeing another woman?
No. And I mean, even if he was by now, I wish he did. So he would be like, we would find him. That's just my personality.
Yeah, and
But,
wouldn't you think that this other woman at some point would have?
yeah.
Wouldn't you think that they would have had a conversation about it? Like maybe you should talk to your kids.
Yeah, and I would I would accept all this. Like, it does not make me feel different on the way I feel about Brandon, but I'm just so upset because they kept saying that to me over and over again. I'm like, just show me your proof, you know?
Yeah, it's
And
frustrating.
I would tell them, I was like, something's really, really wrong. This is not like Brandon. Like, I was like, something is wrong. And my gut feeling is something is wrong. And I don't know why. I've never had a gut feeling like that. Like, just because I've been with Brandon for so long.
Yeah.
Brandon was like really, like me and Brandon, we fought here and there, but he really was my best friend. And like, I loved Brandon like more than anything. Like, it was just, we were crazy when we were younger, and then we grew up, and like, you know, we just loved each other. And I mean, even everybody, like, it's just me and Brandon for years. That's what everybody knew us as, you know.
Did he ever have a second cell phone or anything?
No.
Okay. And has there been any other significant searches in the past, few months or years? Has there been any drones that maybe have gone over there?
Let's see. So we did that search, and then a week, I did that search Sunday, and then I did that airplane search, and then like a week later, this guy offered to take pictures and take somebody up there. So I got his best friend at the time was JR, and he was in the military. So I was like, well, just go with them. I'm with the kids. So he went and he did that, and they didn't see nothing. It was a bigger plane. And then I went, the guy volunteered his time again. And then I went, and so that was like 3, aerial searches. And then finally, police department and stuff like that. Like, nobody was being cool about me going on their land after the sheriff came in. I really don't know what it was. I think because he was just really upset about, he doesn't want people getting hurt and people getting sued. That's what he's telling me. Even though I said I would sign a waiver, that's what they keep telling me. So that's what they tell me. And then they did 21 days. They did one when they came back that Tuesday on heat element basically on somebody's body. I mean, if you wait from Friday all the way to Tuesday, I'm like, I don't think that made sense to me, but they still went on a helicopter and did that search. And then 21 days they did a search. They did it in one day with everybody, police department, I think fire department, all kinds of stuff, except strangers, and they were on horses. And they did that one 21 days because they were like, something's not right. They did that. They didn't find nothing. And then later on, I did, I hired TedStar to come in, and basically they did a search on one day. They said he wasn't out there. They said that they did a really good search and that they searched everything. And that's what they told me. But I think their demeanor was that they thought, everybody kept thinking that Kyle gave Brandon a ride that night. Everybody in the police department. I don't understand why they thought that.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they just kept on. So I think after they talked, and stuff like that, they're just like, oh, he's probably not out here. So let's just, but it is impossible to search that land in one day. It is impossible. Like, impossible. Like, there's no way. No way. Like, it would have to take, I can't even tell you how long it would take. Probably months. Because if you don't look underneath every rock out there, everything, there's so much brush, you don't know. It would take months at a time to look for things.
I want to go back real quick to everyone said that Kyle gave him a ride that night. So their opinion is that Kyle and Audrey gave him a ride. And now Audrey's involved in this?
No, they kept thinking that, and I have no idea. And I guess his friend Chris was with them, and they thought something about Chris. I mean, we've all talked to Chris. Like, Chris was just riding with Kyle to help. I really don't know when Chris was out there. I know he's out there, but I really don't know, time to time, what time and all that. Kyle would have to answer that more for Chris than I would.
We don't want to take up too much more of your time, so is there anything that you want to put out there if anyone has any information on this? who should they contact? Is there like a public call to action that you'd like to put out there at this point?
Well, they have San Angelo Crime Stoppers, and then Coke County, you're free to call them, and then the DPS, Texas Rangers in San Angelo. And I mean, you're welcome to call me or even email me. You can email me if you know something. Just email me, and you can be anonymous. Like, you can make up a fake, just email me. But it's Brandon, Brandond, Ladessa, Ladessa 88 at gmail.com. And you're free to email me. And, even though you don't want to talk to anybody, you can just email me a tip. I figured a lot of people don't like calling law enforcement stuff. So, I mean, that's the best way to do it. They can be anonymous. They don't have to, you can just use anybody's, basically, their email address. So
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and then like you said, if they want to email you, you can sign up on a anonymous email account, email the tip if you have it, and then delete that account, whatever. But as long as the information gets to you, that's the most important thing.
I don't want people thinking that we lived for Brandon a lot. I still do things like on the daily that people don't think, and I wish the city of Bront, town of Bront, knows that we're just a family, just trying to find our loved ones. Like, we're not saying law enforcement and they're against us and all that. It's like we should all work together, and I don't understand why it's such a big thing, not to work together and just try to find Brandon. That's the only thing we want. We're not trying to destroy your town or anything.